Hello, boys and girls. I wanted to give you an idea for an easy art project, Easter art project that you could do at home. I typically do this with my students every year around Easter time in the classroom. Since we can't be in the classroom, I just wanted to show it to you and you could try it at home. Okay, so what you are going to need is a piece of paper. It could be any kind of piece of paper, an old scratch paper, it doesn't matter. It just needs a blank white side. You are going to need some crayons and a pencil and a scissors. Where's my scissors? There it is. If you have watercolor paints, that would be awesome. But if you don't, that's okay. You can do it without it. Okay. What we're going to be doing is making an Easter egg with a bunch of different patterns on it and making it colorful and beautiful and just making your own design for your Easter egg. This was actually made by my son Jake when he was in second grade. See, there's his name. And when he brought it home, I loved it so much, I thought I want to try that with my students. So before we start on the egg, I just want to show you some ideas for some lines and patterns. Okay, a good artist knows how to make different kinds of lines. So these are just some ideas that you might use on your Easter egg. First, a zigzag line, some type of squiggly line, a dotted line, loopy line, and then some different patterns. You could repeat circles right next to each other. You could repeat slanted lines right next to each other. You could do hearts. There's so many different things that you can do. When I look at Jake's, I see kind of some squares next to each other. That looks like the letter J, forwards and backwards. There's those slanted lines. There's some zigzags. Those look like maybe the letter P and Q back to back. There's some dashed lines, some circles, and just some different designs that he did. And really the colors are what make it stand out. Okay, so first thing you're going to do with your blank piece of paper is draw an egg shape. Now, if you have an adult or parent who can help you, they could maybe do a template for you that you could trace, or they could just draw it for you. Okay. Okay, so I drew mine, and we're going to wait to cut it until the very end. That will be the last thing that you do. And I used a pencil. You're going to want to use a pencil first, just like we do in the classroom. In case you make a mistake, you can erase. So the first thing you want to do is decide on what kinds of lines you want to use. And so let's say I'm going to start with a zigzag. And I'm going to zigzag. Now, if you want to repeat that right underneath, then that will give you a space where you can color in and paint. Okay, so I kind of did two zigzag lines. Now maybe I want to do a little design at the top here. Okay, so I got my zigzag. Now I'm going to go with a squiggly, or like kind of a wavy line. And I want to do two next to each other. That way I'll have space in between to paint or color. Okay, now let's see. I'm going to try some circles back to back. And I will pause it while I finish up. All right, so I finished with my pencil. I've got some zigzags, some wavy, some loopy, some circles, just some different patterns. And I kind of made mine repeat what I did at the top. I also did at the bottom. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Now your next step is going to be to use crayons and to just trace over your pencil lines nice and dark with different bright colors. So Easter is celebrating spring, flowers, early new life that is growing. So we want to use bright, beautiful colors for ours, kind of like Jake did. So I'm going to do that now with my crayon. Just going to trace over. I love purple for spring. Uh-oh. You can use the other side. So nice and dark. You're just going to trace over your pencil line. We're not going to color anything in yet with the crayons because we're going to go in and paint with our watercolors. Now, if you do not have watercolors, then you can go ahead and color in. Maybe you want to color in with a light purple or even a different color. Or if you have markers, you can do that. This can be done with many different types of artistic tools. All right, so I did that. I traced with my crayon using bright colors. I added a few more details in there. And once you're done with that, if you have watercolors, now you're going to use your watercolors. And if you're using watercolors, it's best to use crayon to trace over your lines because crayon is made out of wax and it will resist the water. That means it will kind of push it away. And that will make your crayon colors really stand out. If you use marker, probably the water is going to make it bleed and it's going to make it kind of get mixed up and washed out. So if you're going to use watercolors, use crayon. Otherwise, you can just color it in with your markers or with your crayons, however you want to do it. So for our watercolors, remember I still want to use those bright colors. I'm going to start with yellow and decide where do I want my yellow to be. I always like to go top to bottom. That way I don't get my arm stuck in the paint when I'm painting. If you start at the bottom and go to the top, then you're going to rub your arm over what you just painted. So it's always a good idea to start at the top. So you want to pick just one section, and it doesn't matter if you go outside of the lines here because we're going to cut it out later. Now, I don't have watercolor paper. That's why my paints are kind of soaking into the water. But that's okay. We're just using what we have at home. I'm going to put a little orange up there at the top. Okay, so I'm just going to use all kinds of different bright colors and paint over top of my crayon. Okay, so I'm slowly adding watercolors to my egg. Now, one thing to remember when you're using watercolors is that whenever you switch from one color to another color, like I've been using red, let's say I want to switch to yellow, I'm not going to move my brush straight from the red to the yellow. I kind of did that with my green, and you can see the green is there in the yellow paint. So we're going to rinse our brush first before we go to a new color. Now, the more water you use, the better your paint will spread and the lighter your color will be. So I'm going to put some yellow in here. And I did add a few more details as I was going. So you can just be creative and make it your own design. You don't have to copy mine or Jake's. You can make yours however you want to. And I did notice that the harder that I pushed with the crayon, the better the crayon resists the water. So I started trying to paint around these circles, but I realized even if I just go right on top, it won't mess up the crayon color because the crayon color will resist the paint and it will stand out. So you can kind of just go right on top of your crayon color if you want to. Now I'm trying to kind of repeat my design here. So since I used red right here, I'm going to use red again for that similar section right down here. And I'm actually going to go around these little blue dots because, or circles, because I did purple in that spot before. Water. Okay, and remember too, we've used watercolors before. When you're using watercolors, you want to use strokes. Soft, easy strokes. You're not going to take your paintbrush and scribble it like you would a crayon or a marker. That's going to give you a hole in your paper. Now I'm rinsing my brush. I'm going to go to my purple, and I want to put a little purple in these little blue circles. All right, so I'm all done with my color. Now I'm gonna let it dry probably for about an hour or so, and then I will cut it out and I'll be able to put it up in my house. All right, so there it is. I'm all done. So there's Jake's that he made in 2nd grade, and here's one that I made today. I would love to see yours. If you decide to make any type of Easter egg at home, I would love for your parents to take a picture, put it on Class Dojo, and maybe I can post them all and we can see them all. And this would be great to hang in your house to get ready for Easter. Have fun!